Tonight, charging the president's son. Prosecutors gearing up to ask a grand jury to indict Hunter Biden. The special counsel expecting new charges by the end of the month. This all happening just weeks after Biden's plea deal for tax crimes fell apart in court. What we know about the charges and how soon they could come down. Laura Jarrett standing by for us. New video of the moments a convicted murderer escaped a Pennsylvania prison. Danilo Cavalcanti climbing out using two walls to get on the roof right at the beginning of his life sentence. Tonight, why his size may have helped him escape, plus the new details about how long it took the prison to lock down and start the search. Hurricane Lee rapidly strengthening in the Atlantic. The storm expected to become a major hurricane by the weekend. In just moments, Al Roker joins us with a look at where it could take aim. A deadly cyclone slamming into Brazil. Dozens are dead and thousands homeless after floods overtook cities. Right now, helicopters scouring for survivors. Rescuers even forming human chains to drag people to safety. But fears for even more flooding as more rain takes aim at the region. It's official, that female Spanish soccer star pressing sexual assault charges against the federation's president, saying his kiss after the FIFA win wasn't consensual. This all coming after the head coach is sacked in the fallout, the latest in the rapidly intensifying investigation, and what some are calling Spain's Me Too movement. Plus, COVID cases surging just as kids go back to school. The newest variant dodging immunity, sending more people to the hospital. Now the U.S. readying the latest booster shots faster than planned. A doctor joins Top Story Live. And the heart-stopping video of an officer saving an infant who wasn't breathing. The mother rushing her baby to the hospital in Arizona, slamming on the brakes when she saw a police cruiser. Her desperate cries for help as he gave life-saving aid. And good evening. We begin Top Story tonight with that troubling new development involving the president's son, Hunter Biden. The special counsel planning to bring one or more new indictments against the president's son. In court filings that was posted just hours ago, prosecutors gearing up to ask a grand jury to hand down more charges by September 29th. At this moment, we don't know exactly what those charges could be. This development happening in the wake of Hunter Biden's latest plea deal falling to pieces. The Delaware judge asking prosecutors whether tax crimes and gun charges were all part of the same deal. Prosecutors and Biden's defense attorneys unable to agree in the middle of court. Now, Hunter Biden pleading not guilty to those charges. This dramatic legal collapse pushing the attorney general to move, elevating the U.S. attorney David Weiss, overseeing the case, to special counsel. Hunter Biden's legal battles and business moves remaining a political weapon for the president's opposition. Republicans focusing in on alleged backroom dealings between the president and his son, as well as alarming and embarrassing content from Hunter Biden's laptop. And Democratic operatives worrying how Republicans could weaponize these developments for the 2024 election. NBC News senior legal correspondent Laura Jarrett is here. She's going to lead us off tonight. So, Laura, Weiss has been investigating Hunter Biden for years now. Explain to our viewers what exactly is happening right now, because we know both sides are going to try to spin this.
Yeah, this is really the fallout from that plea deal that crumbled under the judge's scrutiny, as you laid out. And the judge said, give me some more information on what exactly is happening now that the deal is off. All right, what are you doing with those outstanding charges? We know the tax one, that had been dismissed, although we thought it might come back to life. As for the gun, Hunter Biden's attorney said, look, he's been upholding his end of the bargain on that deal. We think the deal is still on. The U.S. Attorney's Office, the special counsel's office, rather, tonight saying, no, in fact, we intend to indict by at least the end of this month. And the timing of that has to do only with the Speedy Trial Act. That just requires prosecutors to bring charges within a certain amount of time or it all goes away. And so that's what's driving it. It's not new evidence. It's not all of the pressure campaign from Republicans on the Hill. It has to do with the Speedy Trial Act. That's why this is coming out right now.
In court, when that deal fell apart, the U.S. attorney admitted that they were still open investigations, or we're still open investigations into Hunter's business dealings. Could these new indictments include that as well, possibly?
Yes, and that's the big wild card here, and especially the greater jeopardy for Hunter Biden, because obviously the tax and gun-related things are serious crimes, but they're pale in comparison to foreign business dealing issues. And we know for sure that prosecutors at least have left that open on the table. It's part of why the plea deal crumbled, because they said, hey, we're not willing to say that we're not going to go there.
In the time since that has happened, The U.S. attorney gets elevated to special counsel. Republicans continue their pressure campaign. And so people are going to be watching this going, are these tea leaves? Is there anything here? What happened here?
Well, at least the special counsel's version of this is that he hasn't been unduly influenced. He's been given essentially carte blanche by the Attorney General Merrick Garland to do what he sees fit and to pursue these charges if he just chooses to go that route. Certainly, Republicans think, though, that David Weiss should be doing more. He thinks he should have pursued him on even harder felony charges that he, at least so far, hasn't done. I think Republicans, certainly there are some who will never be satisfied by this, but we just don't yet know what all Biden is facing, Hunter Biden is facing. So I think we have to wait and see exactly what he's charged with, if anything.
To remind our viewers, though, did this all fall apart because of a judge's single question, or was this bad legal work on both sides, both the U.S. attorney and Hunter Biden's defense attorneys?
It was always baffling how, in fact, they could walk into court there with not having this fully baked, knowing there was so much scrutiny on the case, knowing the stakes are so high. Remember, this is the president's eldest son in the middle of his dad's political campaign, potentially being put on trial for criminal charges. You would think his lawyers would have made sure that this was buttoned up, but it appears they just were not on the same page with prosecutors. And again, the query is, what more is there out there besides the tax and the gun stuff that we already know about?
And we'll know at least by the end of the month what's going on.
Exactly.
Okay, Laura Jarrett, great to have you here live. We always
Anytime.
appreciate that. The latest in that desperate manhunt for the escaped inmate in Pennsylvania. Authorities releasing new videos showing the moment he scaled the walls of the prison to break free. But it's not the way you might think. George Solis with the new details of how long it took prison officials to realize he was gone.
This is the moment Daniello Cavalcante began his escape from the Pennsylvania Chester County Prison early Thursday morning. Officials today releasing the video and describing how the convicted killer crab walked up a wall by the prison's exercise yard before pushing his way through razor wire.
While we believe the security measures we had in place were sufficient, they've proven otherwise.
The prison's acting warden acknowledging Cavalcante escaped undetected, even though the prison's observation tower was staffed at the time.
The tower officer did not observe nor report the escape. The escape was discovered as part of the inmate counts that occurs when inmates come in from the exercise yard.
The officer stationed in the tower, he said, is now on administrative leave. The acting warden says Cavalcante made his escape at 8:51 a.m., but he wasn't determined to be missing from the prison for nearly a full hour.
At 9:50 a.m., the prison was locked down and the special count was conducted. By 10:01 a.m., the public escape siren had sounded and the 911 center had been notified.
Authorities say Cavalcante's breakout mirrored a previous escape from the same prison in May, when, according to court documents, inmate Igor Bolt climbed onto the roof of a narrow area of the prison to gain access to a visitor's entrance where there was less security. Bolt was captured within 5 minutes, and security measures were added to the prison. Authorities now adding even more.
Fully enclosing all outside exercise yards, installing additional security cameras, adjusting officers' positions when inmates are in exercise yards.
With yet another sighting reported last night, police say they believe Cavalcante is now heading south, confident he has not escaped their perimeter.
We're committed to the search, and we will find him. We will bring him back and into the criminal justice system.
All right, George Solis joins us now live from Kennett Square in Pennsylvania. So, George, when we look at that video, it's important for us to understand that it does take some athletic skill for this fugitive to do what he did. But explain to our viewers here that this guy also was not being recruited by the NBA.
Yeah, that's right, Tom. I mean, prison officials today saying that size of the wall there is about 5 feet, which is Cavalcante's size. He's 5 foot, 120 pounds. He's light. He's small. He was able to scale that wall and just be thin enough to slide through that razor wire before making his escape. And that size is really contributing to the advantage that he has out here in this wooded terrain. Officials keep hoping that they're able to push him into an area that's a little bit more open, especially with this heat, so they can apprehend him. Tom?
Yeah, he's kind of squirrely. He can hide wherever he wants. George, I do want to ask you, though, why authorities waited until today to release this video?
Yeah, Tom, and I asked officials point blank. They had this video, right? So I asked them why they didn't release it sooner or any other details. They said that decision was up to the state attorney general's office, who's also investigating the escape. He said they really just wanted to focus on capturing the fugitive. Tom?
Okay, George Solis with those new developments in that video. George, we appreciate it. We move on now to the record-breaking heat scorching millions, much of the country remaining in the grip of an unusual September heat wave. Those high temps causing major disruptions. Tonight, especially for children as they begin the new school year. Kristen Dahlgren has the latest.
Across the country, the start of school had students sweating, quite literally.
We were just drowning in our sweat because it was so hot.
The late season heat wave leaving classrooms and school buses sizzling, forcing administrators to pivot. In Philadelphia, that meant early dismissal. Some parents not pleased.
I want to know why these schools don't have AC when our tax money, pay for all this.
In Worcester, Massachusetts, the district says more than 3/4 of schools don't have air conditioning.
I brought like a mini fan that you plug into your phone. I just use that all day.
While in Pittsburgh, school was back to virtual for a second day, leaving mom Lisa Murphy with 3 kids at home.
My work is on pause. Things around the house don't get done. Errands don't get run because I can't leave the house with 3 kids who are online. I really hope they go back tomorrow.
85 million Americans spent the day under heat alerts in a week that has already seen dozens of temperature records shattered. Even in New England, temperatures were just too high to have some sport practices.
So right now we're over 86.2. So right now we have no outdoor activities are allowed.
So everything would be canceled.
Yeah, exactly.
September is late in the season for a heat wave here, but the World Meteorological Organization says it comes after the hottest August on record, the second hottest month ever, right behind this July.
And there is a little bit of relief this evening as the temperatures have fallen back into the 80s, which means they can resume some of the practices. So they're setting up here for that, but they're going to have to go through it all again tomorrow, as the extreme heat is expected to continue in many places, Tom.
Kristen Dahlgren for us. Kristen, we thank you for that. For more on these record high temperatures and the latest on Hurricane Lee's path, let's get right over to Al Roker, who joins me now in studio. Al, is there any relief on the way from this heat?
Well, Tom, for some of us there will be, but for others, the heat goes on. And we're talking about 87 million people from the Southwest down through the Gulf, up into the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, and New England. Heat watches, heat warnings, heat advisories. Now, there is a change coming for the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. This cold front is going to be that change. Milwaukee tomorrow will see temperatures drop by 6 degrees. Indianapolis down to 73. But along the East Coast, Hartford may set a record. Same in Salisbury, Wilmington, Jacksonville. And then you get into the Deep South and on into Texas. Triple-digit temperatures, records most likely being broken. Into the weekend, refreshing temperatures. Mid-70s Chicago. Buffalo into the mid-70s by Sunday, down to 72 degrees, down into the low 80s in Washington. St. Louis will see temperatures dropping down. But for our friends down south, no relief in sight from Mobile, Baton Rouge. We get into the triple digits as we get into San Antonio, San Angelo, and Dallas. And Tom, this really, for the South, doesn't seem like it's going to break anytime soon.
104 in San Antonio. That's wild. All right, Al, I know all along the East Coast and your team as well tracking this hurricane now, Hurricane Lee. Talk to us about the track and what you're watching out for.
Okay, so here's the deal. This is going to be something we're going to be watching into next week, Tom. Right now, Category 1 storm. That's the latest from the National Hurricane Center. 75-mile-per-hour winds. It slowed down a little bit, moving northwest at 14 miles per hour. Now, the projected National Hurricane Center track has this thing by the weekend turning into a major hurricane. Sunday afternoon, 150-mile-per-hour winds. Now, let's put the model ensembles into play. First of all, the American model. So they've got Lee's track staying north of Puerto Rico. That's good news. And then it curves toward Bermuda next week. Let's put the European model in over that. There is relative agreement between the two models. Both keep it away from the East Coast. But, Tom, there's a big caveat. We're talking 7 to 10 days out. A lot of this could change, so we're going to continue to watch it. Right now, it looks okay, but that could change over the next 72 hours and beyond.
You know, Al, I look at those spaghetti models, and I think of Al Roker on the dance floor. They're sort of all over the place, right? So with that being said, Al, you know, and I always get concerned when hurricanes are forming over the weekend because people check out, then they check back in and it's too late. What day should people kind of be watching for this? Should they be monitoring it every day, or do you think by Monday we'll know, Sunday, Saturday, those days?
Well, obviously, we will know, Tom, as we go through the weekend. But I think people, just to be on the safe side, start watching out, keep listening to your NBC station, checking on NBC News Now and MSNBC, all the platforms of NBC and your local NBC station. Because let's say it stays between Bermuda and the East Coast. This is a powerful storm. That still could cause major rip currents up and down the East Coast, beach erosion. So we may not get it by scot-free if it stays on these tracks, but it could change, and we'll continue to update you as we move closer to the weekend and beyond. Tom?
Yeah, it's one of those storms we're going to have to keep an eye on. Al, we appreciate you. Staying with weather, we do want to show you some shocking images coming into our newsroom out of Brazil. More than 60 cities have been rocked by what scientists are calling an extratropical cyclone. At this hour, at least 31 people are dead and thousands are homeless after catastrophic flooding swept out entire communities. NBC's Valerie Castro with the dramatic images tonight.
Tonight, the view from above showing entire cities underwater after a cyclone tore through southern Brazil. The death toll climbing to at least 31 and more than 2,000 people left homeless by the devastating floods. One woman in agony over her loss. Another woman describing her ordeal as she climbed up to a neighbor's apartment while others called out to be rescued. She says it was frightening. People on roofs were asking for help. It was a scene in a horror movie. Forecasters calling the weather event an extratropical cyclone, a fierce storm packing heavy rains, strong winds, and even spawning a tornado. Volunteers struggling to link arms and pull in boats with terrified residents to safety after they were plucked from the rising waters. Emergency crews using jet skis to search the streets for survivors, and helicopter teams delivering those rescued by air on stretchers to waiting ambulances. Firefighters even carrying out people on their backs while trudging through several feet of water. But despite the survivors, the grim reality of death overwhelming one community, where government officials say 15 victims were discovered inside one home. 80% of structures in that town now submerged.
Já configurando a situação de maior volume de mortes evento climático para o estado do Rio Grande do Sul.
Drone video revealing the destruction left behind once the waters receded in some areas. This man picking through the debris that was once his home.
Estamos tentando recuperar pouco que sobrou. Sobrou pouco, nada, nem roupa.
The local governor asking for more resources from the federal government, including more rescue helicopters, while residents plead for help and prepare for more days of rainfall ahead.
All right, Valerie Castro joins us now live in studio. So, Valerie, I know the danger isn't over yet, and this region has been through this before.
Right. This is the fourth extreme weather event this region has seen since just June. There is more rain in the forecast for the next few days, and some areas will remain under flood alerts until at least Sunday. Those search efforts will continue, but that death toll is expected to rise.
Okay, Valerie Castro first. Valerie, thank you. Back here at home to Capitol Hill now, reporters pressing Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. For the first time since he froze for more than 30 seconds during an event last week, McConnell vowing to serve out the rest of his term ending in 2027. But GOP Senator and physician Rand Paul questioning McConnell's clean bill of health from the Capitol doctor. NBC's Ryan Nobles explains.
Tonight, after two freezing episodes in less than 2 months.
All right, I'm sorry, you all, we're going to need a minute.
Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell insisting there's no reason for him to step down.
I'm going to finish my term as leader, and I'm going to finish my Senate term.
Pressed about his health, the 81-year-old saying his doctor's report said everything.
What Dr. Monahan's report addressed was concerns people might have. It's some things that happened to me. Did happen. They didn't. I think you pretty well covered the subject.
The Capitol attending physician examined McConnell, writing, quote, "There's no evidence that you have a seizure disorder or that you've experienced a stroke, TIA, or movement disorder such as Parkinson's disease."
How are you feeling?
The doctor attributed the spells to dehydration and a concussion McConnell suffered back in March when he fell and also fractured a rib. Tonight, most Senate Republicans are satisfied.
I think his health is sound and his leadership is as good as it's been in the 8.5 years I've been here.
But not all Republicans are on board, including McConnell's Kentucky colleague Rand Paul, who's an ophthalmologist.
Well, I've practiced medicine for 25 years, and it doesn't look like dehydration to me. It looks like a focal neurologic event.
Paul saying he's not questioning McConnell's ability to handle his job. Age now a major political issue. Some Democrats have called on 90-year-old Senator Dianne Feinstein to resign, and voters also have concerns about 80-year-old President Biden. A recent poll finding 77% of Americans, including 69% of Democrats, think the president is too old to serve another term.
All right, Ryan Nobles joins us now from Capitol Hill. So I want to go back to what we heard there from Senator Rand Paul, right? Is this something that Republicans are saying behind the scenes? Are people in the GOP saying this in sort of hushed tones, or is Rand Paul on an island with the statement that he's saying?
I really do think, Tom, that he is an outlier. Even when you talk to Republicans privately, both members of Congress, members of the Senate, and their staff, you're very hard-pressed to find any of them that will even say off the record that they don't think that Mitch McConnell is in the proper shape to be the leader of the conference. Now, if this continues to be a problem, maybe that changes. But I think that many Republicans view McConnell as their best option right now. He has been able to run a very tight ship when it comes to this Republican conference. They have a number of big battles in front of them. In the short term, they have a big budget battle brewing. But then long term, of course, there's their effort to try and recapture the Senate. They believe his track record speaks for itself. And even if he is dealing with these health issues, they still believe that he's the best man for the job.
It also speaks to the power he has there with the GOP in the Senate. Many people do say that. I do want to ask you about Congress heading for a September 30th deadline for a government funding deal. Where do those talks stand now, and how does sort of Senator McConnell and his health troubles play into that?
It could be a mess, and Mitch McConnell described it as such. The Senate's ready to pass their version of the appropriations package. The problem comes on the House side. House Republicans don't come back until next week. They want dramatic spending cuts. That's something the Senate's not interested in. There is the very real possibility that they don't come to a resolution before the spending runs out at the end of the month, Tom.
Okay, Ryan Nobles on Capitol Hill for us. Ryan, thank you for that. Now to power and politics in the race for the White House. New polling with some very interesting insight into the state of play. Former President Trump strengthening his lead among Republican voters despite his ongoing legal battles. This has less than a fifth of GOP voters say any of the charges he's facing should disqualify him from running. NBC News political contributor and friend of Top Story, Steve Hayes, joins us now. He's the CEO of The Dispatch. Steve, thanks so much. Great to have you in studio. I want to run through the numbers because there's been a lot of good numbers over the last couple of weeks. First up is the CNN poll, right? And here's what it shows, right? It shows Trump on top, 52% of GOP voters. That number actually went up 5 points since June. The second highest is Ron DeSantis at 18%. But here's the strange thing. He's dropped 8 points in that same time. Again, it's a national poll. What do you attribute that to?
Yeah, I mean, look, Ron DeSantis has had a rough several weeks. He had resets of his campaign, one after another after another. He's found a hard time to sort of catch a groove.
And you think the debate performance was subpar? It was just he survived it.
I didn't think the debate performance was great. Look, going into the debate performance, we talked about this. And the question was, can he do something to sort of break out and make himself look like a rival of Donald Trump? And I don't think he did that.
You know, I think one of the most telling aspects of these polls was this next one. The CNN poll asked voters about charges the former president is facing. And only 17% of Republicans thought the Georgia election case should disqualify him. The other cases were even lower. What does that tell you about the GOP voter right now? But more importantly, what does it tell you about these other candidates and the uphill they have to climb?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the Republican voters, we've seen this in poll after poll after poll. You ask a question about certain health care reforms, and they oppose it 70-30. But you put Donald Trump's name in front of it, say that he favors it, and they all favor it 70-30. So you see a fickle Republican electorate who's very loyal to Donald Trump. I think what it says about Ron DeSantis and the rest of the field, they're running conventional campaigns. Donald Trump is running way up here, way up on the top, and he's increasing his lead, as you pointed out. The other candidates are running conventional campaigns and not catching him.
Right.
But they aren't changing the nature of those campaigns, which I find perplexing.
Do you agree or disagree with former Governor Nikki Haley that Americans, and I think she was talking about GOP voters, won't elect a criminal? Do you think that's true? In the primary?
I mean, certainly there's polling questions right now that suggest that they would be happy to elect a criminal. I think if he is, in fact, convicted of some of these things, if we see a number of his top advisors, Mark Meadows, maybe other people who Republican voters would know by name, flip on him and provide testimony against him, say, look, he was, in fact, well aware of the false electors that he was putting together. I do think you could start to see a shift. Republican voters think Joe Biden is very weak right now, and I think they're right about that.
Right.
But if you see Donald Trump accumulate one after another of these legal charges of a conviction, like he could be in more trouble.
Might be too late in the process, but there's always the convention. We'll have that speech down the road. Many voters bracing for another Trump-Biden matchup, possibly. The Wall Street Journal survey gives an interesting window, though, if that happens. It shows 51% of registered voters think Trump has a strong record. This is all voters, compared to just 40% of those voters for President Biden. So essentially, the people polled here across the spectrum actually think Trump has more a record of accomplishments than the current president.
Yeah, it's pretty striking. One of the things that we haven't seen from his Republican opponents is a consistent set of attacks on Trump's inability to get things done. Repeal Obamacare, build the border wall, all these things he said he was going to get done, and he didn't accomplish.
Yeah, in fact, most of them are running saying they agree with a lot of his policies.
They do. That's exactly right. The difference there, I think, is Joe Biden is not polling well on the economy. Yeah. Donald Trump is given credit for a good economy under his presidency.
Yeah, I want to build off this question here, Steve. So if you have Democrats who are concerned about his age, you have voters across the spectrum concerned about his record of accomplishment. His approval record is down, as well as numbers are down as well. Is there an opening there? Are Democrats, you think, concerned at all, even if the candidate is Trump? I'm not talking about somebody overtaking Biden, because I don't think that'll happen. But do they think there's actually a chance that if President Trump is the nominee, that Biden could have a tough race?
Yeah, I mean, if either of these candidates were running against anybody in the other party, I think they would be looking as very weak candidates. Right. Joe Biden is a weak incumbent, one of the weakest incumbents in recent memory, based on all of the things that you suggest. Donald Trump, of course, has these trials, but he's also got a good chunk of swing voters and some Republicans, some insignificant number of Republicans, 5, 10%. Just won't vote for the guy. He's got to make up those votes somewhere, and it's not clear where he's going to get them from.
Yeah, if you have a concern about money in politics, take a look at this. An ad tracking company estimates Republicans' ad spending has already passed $100 million, and we're still months from the first primary. Early state and national ads are only one piece of a campaign strategy. Do you think this is making a difference? I mean, going back to 2016, Jeb Bush had all this money. It made no difference. They've already spent $100 million. Wow.
Yeah, it's extraordinary. And the other thing that very fine NBC News piece pointed out was that Democrats at this point in this race had spent $15 million. I mean, just, you're talking orders of magnitude more.
Right.
I don't think we know whether it's made a difference, because a lot of the anti-Trump spending has taken place in the early states to this point. We won't really know until voters, caucus goers go, voters go and cast their ballots. Trump is softer in those early state polls than he is in the national polls. And if you talk I talked to a GOP strategist just the other day, and they said Trump is a lot softer. Private polling has him softer. You talk to activists in the state, you talk to the people who go to caucuses every single year. Every single presidential year in Iowa, and they don't love the guy. So there may be some softness there that doesn't show up in the national polling.
If some of these candidates can maintain and stay into the Iowa caucus, New Hampshire primary, I think it'll be interesting, and we'll see if the narrative changes. Also, if Trump joins any of these debates, we're going to have to wait and see. Steve, great to have you in studio.
Great to see you. Thanks.
Yeah. Still ahead tonight, a major development in a story we've been following closely. The Spanish soccer star who was kissed by the Federation's president during the World Cup, now saying it was not consensual. The major legal step she's now taking. Plus, late-breaking news out of Texas, what a federal judge just ordered the state to do with those controversial border buoys we've been telling you about. And a scary scene at the Washington State Fair. Look at this. Riders stranded on a roller coaster. What those workers had to do to get them to safety. Top story just getting started on this Wednesday night. Okay, we're back now with an update on a story we've been following. Spanish soccer player Jenny Hermoso officially pressing sexual assault charges against the Federation's president. The athlete saying that kiss during the World Cup was not consensual. The controversy now leading to major leadership shakeups for the national women's soccer team. NBC's Ellison Barber has more of the growing fallout.
Tonight, Spanish soccer star Jenny Hermoso formally accusing her nation's federation chief, Luis Rubiales, of sexual assault for kissing her on the lips following Spain's Women's World Cup win. Spanish authorities say Hermoso is now pressing charges over that controversial kiss that sparked a national debate and a movement under the hashtag Se Acabó that translates to "It's over," referencing women's rights and sexist behavior.
I think it's really similar to the Me Too moment. I really think that it's gonna help to the change.
And now the man who coached Spain's soccer team to a Cinderella win at the FIFA World Cup, losing his job. Jorge Vilda speaking out on a Spanish radio station, calling his firing unjust.
Bueno, pues estoy todo lo bien que se puede estar después de haber sido campeonas del mundo hace 16 días. De hace 10 días estar renovado por 4 años más el que me quedaba 5, con una remuneración mayor. y después de hoy ser cesado, creo que injustamente.
Vilda's ouster coming on the heels of Rubiales' suspension, who was asked to step down from his role by the Federation days after refusing to resign.
No voy a dimitir. No voy a dimitir.
Calling the outrage at his behavior fake feminism. Vilda was in the crowd at the time and clapped, something he now says he regrets.
Es bastante complicado con 140, 150 personas más que se levantan y aplauden, ser el único que te queda sentado y no aplaudir. Es realmente complicado. Aunque después, cuando sales, que estás un poco en shock, haces una reflexión y dices, pues esto yo no lo hubiera aplaudido.
Vilda came under fire last year after players called for his resignation over what they said were inadequate coaching methods and subpar conditions compared to the men's squad. Some changes were made, but the Football Federation backed Vilda, who went to the World Cup without most of the players who tried to oust him.
El equipo está unido, tenemos un grupo que está muy ilusionado y que compite y que pelean por el mismo objetivo.
But now a board formed in the wake of Rubiales' suspension, making the decision to end Vilda's coaching contract. In a statement, the Royal Spanish Football Federation did not give a reason for his dismissal, and they did not mention Rubiales or Hermoso, instead praising Vilda's contribution to the sport. Montse Tomé, who was Vilda's assistant coach since 2018, will replace him, becoming the first woman to ever serve as head coach for a senior Spanish national soccer team.
Okay, so Ellison, a lot to ask you. I do want to start with the first thing, the kiss happened in Australia, but the charges are happening in Spain?
Yeah, so this, I think, an American audience would look at this and say, okay, that does not make sense, and it's kind of a quirk of Spanish law. So basically in Spain, they have a law that says if there is a criminal offense that occurs outside of Spain and it involves, the parties involved are Spanish nationals, and if it is a criminal offense in that other country, that it can then be prosecuted in Spain. So basically this probe, if ultimately prosecutors say, okay, we're going to bring charges, it would be dealt with in Spain's high court.
Okay, and then I do want to ask you, the firing of the coach, has that done anything for the president of the federation in his case?
No, so it hasn't so far. So remember, when we're talking about Rubiales, he's currently suspended by FIFA for 90 days. That started on August 26th. He is now the subject of this criminal investigation. On top of that, there are two ongoing investigations into his behavior, one with FIFA, one with Spain's top sports court. If he is found in that latter case to have violated their code of conduct, he could be suspended from football for 2 years. When we're looking at this criminal probe, because there are just so many layers here, it's hard to keep track of it. But with the criminal probe, if prosecutors decide that this was a criminal offense of sexual harassment, he actually could be looking at jail time. In Spain, that's a charge that carries 1 to 4 years. It's unlikely for a first-time offender that they would serve something less than 2 years in Spain, but it's possible. So there's mounting pressure.
And clearly the start of a moment there in Spain from what we saw in your reporting. Okay, Ellison, thank you for all that. When we come back, COVID not over yet, a new uptick in cases with a variant that is causing another rise in hospitalizations, just how soon Americans could get their next booster shot and why it's so important this time around. Also, a search in Michigan for a man who shot at officers and set police cruisers on fire. The warning to residents who live in the area. That's next. We're back now with Top Stories news feed, and we begin with breaking news out of Texas. A federal judge ordering the state to remove the controversial buoys we've been reporting here that were installed as a barrier in the Rio Grande earlier this summer in an effort to curb illegal crossings. The judge ruling the buoys obstructed the flow of the river and would have required congressional authorization. Texas has until September 15th to remove the floating barrier. An appeal is expected. Michigan State Police tonight searching for a man who shot at officers and set several cruisers on fire. Authorities releasing these surveillance images of the man they say targeted the St. Marie State Police Post. The suspect drove off in a silver Honda and is considered armed and dangerous. Residents have been urged to avoid that area. A scary scene at the Washington State Fair after a roller coaster malfunction. Video showing riders stranded on the Wildcat at the fair in Pierce County Friday night. 3 operators climbing up to manually push that car over the hill to glide to the end. You see what happened there. The park says all riders were eventually safely evacuated. The cause of that malfunction is still under investigation. And the longest running HBO series is coming to an end. Real Sports with Brian Gumbel is going off the air after nearly 30-year run. Gumbel in a statement saying he is, quote, ready to turn the page. The magazine-style sports show has garnered 37 sports Emmys and 3 Peabody Awards, airing more than 300 episodes, featuring interviews with the biggest names in sports. The final episode of this current season will be its last. Okay, we want to turn now to COVID and the recent increase in cases nationwide. NBC News learning that new vaccine booster shots could be available next week after CDC approval. NBC's Tom Costello has the latest.
The American seniors are in Ireland to soak in Irish music. They got the music, but 6 out of 20 also got COVID.
I didn't want to spend my whole vacation wearing a mask in Ireland. You can't sing along with a band with a mask on.
Frances Foster's third bout with COVID is milder, but she's isolating in a Dublin hotel room.
I had a bad day yesterday. Today I seem better.
New cases are popping up around the world and across the U.S., including First Lady Dr. Jill Biden. President Biden criticized for removing his mask while awarding the Medal of Honor to an 81-year-old veteran. After 150,000 hospitalizations in January, that dropped to 6,300 in June. The CDC reports hospitalizations are rising again, more than 17,000 as of August 26th, far below pandemic levels, but a reminder, say experts, COVID may be here to stay.
The sickest COVID patients are certainly older, immunocompromised. They have primary pulmonary disease like emphysema, and the unvaccinated.
But the country remains divided over masks and vaccines. The FDA now expected to approve updated COVID boosters as soon as Friday, available as soon as midweek. Moderna and Pfizer say their new vaccines appear effective against the new BA.2.86 variant, which has appeared in Michigan, New York, Ohio, and Virginia. The FDA just approved a new RSV vaccine for small children and expectant mothers. Tom?
Okay, Tom Costello for us. Tom, we appreciate all that. For more on what a new COVID booster and the recent increase in COVID cases means as we head into fall, I want to bring in Dr. Saira Madad, an infectious disease epidemiologist. Doctor, thanks so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So talk to me first about the new COVID booster rollout. Do you think it's going to be available to all ages, or do you think it's going to be available to the people who are vulnerable?
That's a great question. So we have a process here in the United States. So this week, FDA is going to discuss and potentially give the thumbs up. But then the CDC, which they have a committee called the ACIP, they are a group of experts that meet and they discuss who in the United States is eligible for these updated COVID-19 booster vaccines. That has not happened yet. They're going to be meeting on the 12th. I'm assuming that certainly individuals that are high risk, immunocompromised, are certainly going to be in that category. We'll see what other age groups are going to add into that, but we'll find out next week.
Well, Tom was just getting into this new variant, and I do want to ask you more about it. What do we know about this new variant?
So if you're talking about the BA.2.86, so the reason why this is making headlines is because it has a number of different mutations, about over 30 in the spike protein, and so anytime we see a variant that has so many mutations, it certainly is a red flag. But luckily, the preliminary data that's coming out, both out of the lab as well as with what Moderna shared in their press release today, is that the new updated COVID vaccine is going to still continue to be effective. So it's encouraging news.
Yeah.
So right now, what we know about the current variant is we don't know if it's going to cause more severe illness. Preliminary data is not showing that. Where this variant is being detected in the United States, you're not seeing a rise in hospitalizations or ED visits, which is good news. Our current treatment, Paxlovid, for example, is still effective. Testing still works. And so right now, luckily, it's all encouraging news, but it's something that we're going to continue to keep a close eye on.
Yeah, that big headline that Moderna's vaccine at least would combat this type of COVID variant. I also read that with this new variant, you should test yourself. If you feel like you're sick, you should test yourself, but then test yourself in a couple days because on some of the old tests, it's not appearing right away. Have you heard this too?
Yeah, absolutely. So it depends on first what type of test you're using and where you are in your course of illness. But that's why it's always good to do serial testing, meaning test once and then test again, the next day or a couple of days later. And then obviously go ahead and test again after that if you feel as if it's coming back negative and you think you're positive.
Yeah, I was a little bit under the weather recently and I had to take a COVID test, and we realized that our COVID tests at our home were expired. So people need to check this, right? Because people have sort of like we did, had COVID in the rear view, and it's sort of coming back a little bit.
Correct. So FDA actually do have a website where they have extended the shelf life of a number number of different COVID tests. So go to the FDA website and see if the test that you have at home has an extended shelf life. It's not all of them, but there are some of them where the extended shelf life exists.
What do you make about this uptick in cases, right? You're hearing it anecdotally, the First Lady, the President. We just saw this report about these travelers. Do people need to sort of change the way they've been living post-pandemic? I mean, nobody wants to wear a mask again. Not nobody, but most people don't want to wear masks again. Do you think we're going to enter a phase where people are going to be asked to wear masks?
Well, I think first, when we talk about COVID-19, we know it's here to stay. And individuals that are at higher risk for COVID-19 certainly should take extra precaution. I think anytime you start seeing a bump in cases, hospitalizations, it's always good to be cautious, especially if you are immunocompromised. So look at your local data, local levels of transmission, and certainly take extra precautions. And masking works. We know that. One-way masking is very effective. So if you're in a crowded place, confined space, it's always good to have that mask handy.
Dr. Madad, great having you on tonight. Thank you so much for all that helpful information. We turn on to top stories global watch, and we begin the UK with an urgent manhunt for a terror suspect on the run. Former British Army soldier Daniel Califf escaping from Wandsworth Prison in southwest London early this morning. He had been awaiting trial for terrorism charges, including committing a bomb hoax at a Royal Air Force base. The suspect supposedly fled the prison by hiding under a food delivery truck. Authorities say he should not be approached if seen. And urgent efforts are underway to save an American scientist trapped in one of the deepest caves in Turkey. 40-year-old Mark Dickey, currently trapped 4,000 feet underground after falling ill due to a gastrointestinal bleeding in the middle of his excursion. Paramedics able to deliver 6 units of blood to the stranded scientist, which has stabilized his condition. Teams are now setting up rope lines to pull him out on a stretcher. That difficult mission expected to begin in the coming hours. Okay. And China reportedly banning government officials from using iPhones. The Wall Street Journal with this one reporting all central government officials will not be allowed to use Apple iPhones or even bring them into the building while at work. This comes as China works to tighten its cybersecurity and limit reliance on foreign technology. The Chinese market currently accounts for about 19% of Apple's revenue. Okay, coming up next, the race to rescue an infant in distress. How an Arizona police officer in the right place at the right time helped save this child's life. We'll show you the video. It's an incredible story. That's next. Back now with a terrifying moment in Arizona caught on camera. A mother rushing her unresponsive baby to a police officer who happened to be responding to a different call nearby. The officer immediately springing into action. Miguel Almaguer picks up the story from there.
What's going on? A harrowing moment caught on police body camera.
45, I'm going to have an unconscious, unresponsive infant.
A distressed mother in Mesa, Arizona, seen rushing her baby to an officer after he stopped breathing. The officer immediately starting life-saving measures on the unresponsive 1-year-old.
You okay?
And after a few terrifying seconds,
he's blinking. You okay?
Was able to get the baby breathing again.
I heard screaming, so I walk over, and when I peep out this way, from the other side where the train's at, Mom comes running up to me screaming for help.
Officer Shaquille Perez was responding to another call at the train station when the panicked mother racing to the hospital saw Perez and pulled over, desperate for help.
He's breathing now.
Another stroke of luck, a retired paramedic nearby, eager to assist.
The guy ran up saying he was, a retired paramedic and asked if he could help. So, of course, I said yeah. So he took the baby from my arms. We put him in the backseat of the squad car under some AC.
As the baby cooled down in the back of the police car,
wake up,
the sound of his cries,
okay, all right,
sending a wave of relief to everyone.
He's crying, so we're getting some noises from him, okay? He's going to be okay.
Every parent's worst nightmare narrowly avoided.
It is an amazing feeling to know that I was able to intervene and help and, potentially save that baby's life.
After this officer was in the right place at the right time. Miguel Almaguer, NBC News.
Next, to a life-saving rescue at sea. 3 sailors were saved off the Australian coast after multiple shark attacks left them stranded and nearly capsized their boat. But not the type of sharks you may be thinking. NBC's Maya Eaglin has the story and an update on how those sailors are doing tonight.
Tonight, a dramatic rescue in the shark-infested waters off the coast of Australia. These images capturing the incredible moments help arrived for 3 sailors on a Russian expedition, stranded on a sinking inflatable catamaran, badly damaged by multiple shark attacks. The boat was first attacked by these cookie-cutter sharks on Monday, according to the expedition's Instagram. The deep-sea assault leaving the boat partially submerged, but it continued on for another 100 miles as the crew tried to reach the Australian city of Cairns. Then on Tuesday, another cookie-cutter shark attack, piercing the catamaran's hull, flooding the vessel with waters from the Coral Sea. But on board and critical to their rescue, one life-saving satellite device.
Emergency beacon absolutely saved their life. It enabled the Rescue Coordination Centre to identify their precise location and tailor the most appropriate and quickest response to rescue them.
In the dead of night, a 650-foot ship registered to Panama, showing up to rescue the 3 sailors. The voyage began in St. Petersburg, Russia, back in 2021, and the plan was to visit 40 countries by July 2024. But those plans are now up in the air, the group spokesperson telling NBC News. Now the travelers are safe. This is the most important thing. Unfortunately, the catamaran could not be saved. The fate of the expedition will be clear next week.
The 3 males were very happy to be rescued, and they're all healthy and well and aboard the Dugong Ace, the vehicle carrier.
And Tom, maritime safety experts say that this type of inflatable catamaran is typically safe and less prone to capsizing. But according to the Australian government, the area of the Coral Sea where this rescue occurred is home to more sharks than almost any other site in the world, making this type of catamaran a bit of a risky choice. Tom?
Cookie-cutter sharks. Had never heard of that one. Okay, Maya, we thank you for that. When we come back, the sound of resilience. A trio of musicians on the island of Maui using their uniquely Hawaiian instruments to band their community together after those devastating wildfires. Their story, and more importantly, their music. Next. Finally tonight, the Melodies bringing an island community together. A trio of Maui musicians playing for the first time since those wildfires devastated Lahaina. Stan Brock now with the story of the classic Hawaiian harmonies still connecting the island.
Our land is in great, great danger now.
For these Slack Key musicians,
how would they feel?
The melody of a classic song, Hawaii 78, tells more than the story of a watershed moment restoring the Hawaiian language. It's about a spirit and evolving state.
A lot of people see it, the luau's like, oh, it's an old culture. It's not old, it's not dead, it's alive, and it's always moving, it's always changing. When things happen, it'll change and change again.
Hawaiian culture, Hawaiian music, the Slack Key show, you know, that will live on, and it will live on because of the people. And without the people, all of this ceased to exist.
Like I say, we're trying to find balance.
Max Becerra, Sterling Seaton, and Peter Diakino specialize in Slack Key, which, as legend has it, came when the California Cowboys gifted the Hawaiians their guitars.
Hawaiians didn't quite understand the standard guitar tuning. You know, it's very classical music, European style way to tune a guitar because they weren't taught that.
So they put their own touch on it.
Yeah, they just slacken the strings. That's why it's called Slack Key.
All right, here we go. It regularly brings together hundreds for performances. But now, after the horrors heaped on Lahaina,
C, G sharp.
These musicians know it will bring them back together. This is their first session since they've lost so much. For Seaton, he still has his fishing shop, which he's now using to help devastated fishermen with supplies.
Even giving rods out, it's hard to fathom.
Some gear donation.
But for a man born and raised on Maui, Seaton's lost his house, his cat, his touchstones.
It's just ashes, completely leveled, as well as pretty much the entire neighborhood.
Peter Diakino, a 2-time Grammy Award winner and father of 2, is still trying to process escaping flames with his family.
The hardest part is trying to tell my son that he can't go home yet. And
how old is he?
Different. He's 3. 3 years old. I got a 8-month-old baby, so it's tough. Sorry, I don't really talk about this kind of stuff.
How would he feel?
The pain palpable for all the people of Maui. And yet through hardship, there's always been the steady harmony of their musical stories.
Cry for the gods, cry for the people.
For the group, it's an outlet and also an inspiration.
So much pressure and so much anxiety and tragedy and just so much bad stuff happening that music is definitely that flame of hope that we have to hold on to.
As for the question so many would love an answer to, when will this trio be performing again for a larger audience? And the answer is they don't even know. They're trying to find the right balance right now. Peter tells me he doesn't want to burst into tears on stage should he perform right now. They said they're going to spend more time with family, but rest assured, this musical family will be back before long. Tom, back to you.
We thank Sam for that wonderful story, and we thank you for watching Top Story tonight. I'm Tom Llamas in New York. Stay right there. More news on the way.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.